Alright, my topic is, can countries work together to overcome the global financial crisis? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first bring forth a quote. You can't shake hands with a clenched fist. This shows us how everyone must be willing to put in our own effort before you can work together. Can you imagine a picture of two people shaking hands? Now, can you shake hands with a clenched fist? I suppose not. Now, this quote was taken from Indira Gandhi. This only shows us how much cooperation is needed to fix the financial crisis today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today's financial crisis is a result of everyone's irresponsibility. We might first blame the president for not taking over the matter properly, for letting the bubble grow and grow until it burst. There was a global credit boom in the early 21st century, and now it's becoming a global credit crunch. We may blame all the presidents of the country, all the prime ministers, financial ministers, and whatnot, but all this only leads us to play the blame game. The blame game only leads us to tell that person is wrong, they didn't watch it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me illustrate today's global financial crisis. Today's global financial crisis probably started out. The first symptom was when President Bush gave tax cuts. And everyone realized that it was easy to get loans and we could get assets, and they all put this probably first into property prices. When the property prices started to decrease, people invested, and slowly debt was even more than capital. They could not handle it any longer. And thus, they had to suddenly be doomed inside this debt bubble. It was no longer a credit boom, it was a credit crunch. Let me quote President Wen Jiabao from China. The greatest thing we can do for the world is to manage our own affairs adequately. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do you agree? Do you agree it's all right to have a hand and say, we manage our own affairs and the world will get along fine? No, this only is the opposite of my answer to today's question. Countries must work together to overcome the global financial crisis. Where is China if we are going to discuss at G20, and where is China when we are restructuring a financial architecture, when we are refinancing global stakeholdership? Now, my point for today is, it is because it is a global problem that all countries must work together. And because it's a global problem, we must seek between each other to look for a model. My second point is that it's a nation's right to also look for a problem together. That the nation itself must fix its problems, then contribute to protecting the world's economy. And lastly, global cooperation. I will first start off with a global problem. We all know that every country now is facing unemployment problems. Every country has problems that they cannot cope on their own. But however, let me quote you from Director of World Trade Organization, Mr. Pascal Levy. Do not react to global crisis by protectionism. We cannot protect ourselves. Now you see here, there is a problem in China. These people oversave. People in US, for another case, they overconsume. They keep on buying and buying until their debt triples and doubles their own income. In China, it's a different story. It is this Chinese belief that we have to keep our money for the children's future and stuff like that. But this is not the way to help the other countries. Now, let us seek a model. We have the finance minister of Mulyani Indrawati that helps Indonesia now cope today's global crisis. Today's global crisis in Indonesia is coped by a tidal wave of finance, but this is not because of the global credit crunch. This was because more taxpayers were paying money to help the country cope for their financial crisis. You see, Finance Minister Mulyani Indrawati has introduced the sunset policy for tax liquidity. This allows people to get over their mistake of, avoiding taxes, and now they are coming out to help the country. It was the spirit of the nation. In the last year, 50% more taxpayers came to the government to pay their tax, and they also have only 30% debt of their GDP. Now, I would like to move on to global cooperation. In the past, the IMF has been rejected by Europeans. They did not donate generously to the International Monetary Fund, which was first brought up to help countries cope with their financial crises. Then the UN became irrelevant. They brought up humanitarian stories, and they forgot the core problem of all countries, providing jobs. So everyone became irrelevant. And this global credit crunch became an infectious disease. It started from the U.S. and then it affected because U.S. it provides jobs to China, and China provides jobs to its own people. So all these things are interrelated. It becomes an infectious disease. This problem is not just in Washington. All the nation leaders have to realize their role in the country. It is not Washington's role to help save the country. It is every country from themselves, and then they work together to put funds together. Now, natural emotions. Let me give you a quote. Anxiety not only empties today of its sorrows, it also empties tomorrow of its strength. Now, this shows us that if the nation is going to get depressed, they are not going to help. They would have to go on and support government intervention. In the range from 1854 to 1919, there's this financial contraction that happens only after 22 months. And now in the latest 21st century, it happens only 100 months. But too bad, the bubble just exploded a little too far and it exploded bigger. It was 100 months, which showed us stability can be achieved. This problem is going to be temporary, but how we have to save it, we have to work together. There were 51 million job losses reported by the International Labour Organization, which only shows us people who are finally affected are the people in the country itself. It's not the country as a whole, because the country only lives with its nation. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I have shown you how we as the world of people must work together to save the global financial crisis. The greatest thing we can do for the world, and I oppose President Wendy about, we must manage our affairs together. With that, I thank you.